right. Hello. Well, welcome aboard the ship, Brooklyn. Today we have Brooklyn Moore. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're excited by? What's really getting you amped these days?
Oh man, I was from Brooklyn, and I was born in Compton and raised in the East Bay
Okay.
by the Rastafarian Gypsies, who were mostly anarchists and didn't believe in the system. And then I shortly after that got adopted and ran away a bunch and had to figure out my life and knew I didn't want to be a part of the system, but had to figure out how to, don't move that baby girl, how to live without being an anarchist and or killing myself or ending up in jail or mental institution. And so I found art and weaving and tea and now poker. And then from poker, some of my poker friends told me about the crypto world. So I'm just trying to juggle all these balls of interest and inspiration and keep my head on my shoulders at the same time. That's pretty much me in a nutshell.
I identify with a lot of that, and I know Chris does too. So that gives us
Very much so.
a lot of jumping off points. Why don't we start with like tea? Because so I don't know if you know, Chris is very enthusiastic about tea. He has a tea business where he imports tea from China and stuff. How did you get into tea?
I got into tea because I was mostly into herbs, but the herbs I was drinking was highly medicinal, and I was poisoning myself a lot.
Hmm.
I would get, I would break out in itches all over my body from just drinking. I would drink like 80 ounces a day of herbs, and I would mix all different kinds. And one day I was hanging out in a cafe sharing my herbs with people, and this guy was like, had a tea in a pot, and it was like expanding, and the colors were changing in a way that wasn't like herbs. And I said, "What's that?" And he told me it was a oolong tea. And I said, "What's oolong tea?" And then he broke it down. And we talked for like 3 hours. He pretty much gave me the history on tea. And then I learned I can drink 80 ounces of tea without poisoning myself. So I said, I'll just drink tea and just learn more about tea. And been the year now, and feel like I know a lot about tea. And I just, it was like a love at first sight, like
Hmm.
the
Wait.
medicinal
I
property.
understand. So just if you could and if you would, so what kind of herbs were you into whenever you were brewing the tisanes and decoctions of that nature?
um, I never was into alcohol, and I used to work in a nightclub, so I was always looking for stuff that can alter my just the way I felt and just give me energy and like affect me mentally, like mental stimulants. And I didn't always want to have to smoke weed. And so the herbs like Damiana was the first herb that I learned about, and then nettles and just like other herbs for like my skin. I was like, oh, I can be pretty too. I can drink these things and it can make me beautiful. This is awesome. I can be beautiful. I can have energy. I can have mental stimulation. Like, why didn't I know about this earlier? It's like diet supplementary because it has a bunch of vitamins and minerals. It's not easily like transferable in foods, or like you have to eat a lot of the food. And she's like, what? This like solves all kinds of things. And I can just drink. I don't have to like prepare it like in a pot or like something. I could just like heat up the water and put it on there. Sounds great.
Yes. Yes, I enjoy greatly. I'm glad you enjoy as well. Hey, so what are you sipping right now?
I'm drinking it's a pu'er, a ripe, no, actually it's a raw pu'er called
Ooh.
yin yang.
Yes. Very nice. Shangpuer, one of my favorites. I've got some Shang brewing in the other room right now.
Yeah.
I sure do. It's a Bulong Sheng. It's from Yunnan, from the Bulong Mountain. It's a
Ooh.
beautiful bright Sheng. Tastes very wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about yourself past tea.
Um, I'm really into patterns and deciphering them and creating them and understanding them and sharing them with people and like playing with them with people. Like Sudoku was one of my favorite games for a while.
Well, and is that how you got into poker? Like, was because I think you mentioned that the other day about like the patterns of poker and a lot of that stuff.
No, I got into poker because it was like the only thing on TV that I could watch. So I would like press mute and just like watch it because it was like more than just people sitting at a table. It was like pictures of cards and like it's like 4 different suits, so like the hearts and like the I just like fell into like this imaginary land of all the different cards, and I was like, people get paid for this too? Poor if I can figure this game out? Well, let me just give it a try. I'm tired of poor. And just was really good at it. Was really good at, I guess, like the con, like it's like you can con people and like get rewarded for lying to people. Like all the things that are games, like you get like in trouble for in the outside world is like manipulative. You can like manipulate people and you get rewarded. So it's like all these dark things that usually get punished for. You have to lie, like that's called a bluff. You have to like test people. That's called like usually in the streets it's called punking. Like if you test somebody, like let me see what you worth, let me see what you willing to fight over or how tough you are. So it doesn't usually happen walking around in the streets. You know, go up to people and say, let me see how tough you are.
Yeah. Yeah, don't turn out so well a lot of the time in my experience.
Although I feel like the thing is that like with poker, you know, because I think the misconception is that it's, you know, it's just gambling. I mean, it is in a way, but like they think it's kind of like a game of chance. And that does factor in, but I think it's like mostly a game about like reading people, you know? And so I think I've heard lawyers will like train sometimes of poker because it's like, you know, you're trying to manipulate people when you're a lawyer. That's like really what the job is. And so I think it's like they'll use it as practice for that. Do you find that you use like the skills from poker in real life?
Yeah, actually, I think it's really, it's not just like the bad side of it, but it's also like the discipline and like the desire to like figure things out. So like I feel like that's part of life, and then what another thing like one hand that's considered the worst hand is like 7 deuce offsuit. That means that suits don't match, like a 7 of clubs and a 2 of hearts. And in poker in life, like you don't have to have the best starting hand. Like that hand can win sometimes. So like it's not about what you have, it's about what happens and how you use what you have. So I think a lot of lessons in poker you can like take to life. And same with money. Like just because you have money doesn't mean you're happy, and just because you don't have money doesn't mean you're not happy. So a lot of like poker strategies and analysis are like super relevant in like the real world. It's like I tried to write a book on this, and I had somebody who was willing to write it with me, but they knew nothing about poker. They were just excited to write the book, and we were getting along so well. It's like, yeah, it's gonna be great. And I was like, so do you know the poker hierarchy? She said, oh no, I don't even know how to play poker.
Nice.
Okay, well, I probably should find somebody else to write this book with, because I can't teach you everything. It'd be nice if we can teach each other things and bounce ideas off of each other versus you only have an interest in doing it because you like hanging out with me. That's cool and all. I love you too, but so yeah, I think a lot of life stuff is like with poker.
Did you like play professionally at all? Like, would you like was that like your, you know, job or income from poker?
Yeah, that was my job for a while. I played
Awesome.
online and I also played live.
Played what?
Live and online. So like online is not live.
Oh, online. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, online is weird because like you don't have any human like ticks to give anything away. You know, there's no tells. It's just like purely Like, how are they betting and stuff, right?
No, there's tails. So one of the tails online is it times how long you make an action. So action means if you're gonna call or fold or raise. So when it's your turn, if somebody instantly calls or like instantly raise, that's a tail. So the tails are just more subtle and like harder to, or somebody's always raising or somebody's always folding after you raise. Like it's just more. It's just you have to pay more close attention. But there's definitely tails. And that's where the math comes into. Like there's a lot of math kids who just sit there and just like do the math, and there's all these apps and all these things they created so that they don't even have to focus on how long a person called or if they instantly raised or if they just like instantly folded. They just like play the math only. And so it's like two kinds of players online. And since like it was a guy who won the main event World Series of Poker. He was a normal guy. He wasn't a shark. He wasn't known in the poker world. And then after that, it boomed. It just went from like 200 people at the final table to like 4,000 people.
Wow.
At the main event. So like it just like grew so big. And now the math kids, like some of the person actually who told me about crypto is one of the first people of poker. And he doesn't play anymore. He's like, I hate poker. I'm never being a slave to that game. It's all these math kids and it's no psychology anymore. It's just like math. But it's not true. It's just him being a complainer.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because like my thing with poker is and I talk to people who are really into it, but like I never, like I like to play it, but I just have a weird thing about like spending the money on it, you know, just because like any kind of gambling, like, or any kind of game for money, I just feel like I have like a block in my mind about it, you know. And I've talked to people who are like, I'm not gonna play poker with you unless we're betting money, because then that's what makes it interesting to them.
Yeah.
It's not just a game. And I think about like, you know, maybe because what you were saying about discipline is that like the game of poker can kind of like force you to reassess your relationship to money and like to put away your attachment to like, oh my God, this is a huge pot. Don't make any like decisions or something. I don't know. What would you say about that?
Yeah, totally. So that's like one of the number one attractions to poker is like, okay. So one thing, poker players is from all over the world, all ages now, but that's one of the things they all have in common is that they don't really care about money. So that's like number one thing is like you can't care. If you care about money, you wouldn't play because you know that there's a chance of you losing. So it's like you look at money has a whole nother value, and it's you just approach money in a whole different way. It's not like, oh, I hope if you look at money like I hope I win, or if I lose I'm gonna be sad. Like you're not playing poker. You're just like tricking yourself. Like
right, trying to gain.
Not care about money. You have to like be okay with losing and just like being poor, and just like, hey, if I have to sleep outside, whatever. At least I tried. You know, at least I tried my hardest. And that's something I feel like all poker players, at least the good ones, have in common. They don't really care about the money value. It's just a tool for them.
Was there a time for you whenever it was different? Was there a time for you whenever it was more about the money? Was there like is there a breaking point there? Tell us about that. How did that happen?
Yeah, when I first started, it was all about the money. I was like, oh my God, I can just play this game and like win money. And then I learned the game and I lost all the time because I was so focused on like making money that and then I didn't have my game right. So my whole idea was I can make money. What do I do to make money? I read all these books by these players. Like one guy, his name is David Skolansky. He's like famous guy. I like read all his books. I read a Barry Greenstein book, all these professional peoples. I read all their books. I'm like, okay, this is what you do when you have ace king and you're like third position. I memorized all the bullshit. And then I'm like, I'm still losing. How come? Like this guy said if I did this and did that, I would win. How come I'm still losing? And then that's when I just like at that point, I was dancing and playing poker. So I would lose all my money and then go dance and make it back. Like, so I was like going like this, and I was like, I'm tired of like going making money just to lose it and then making it
Right.
back. It's like I'm losing my shit. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna kill myself soon if I keep going through these extremes. And then that's when I was like, okay, I'm not gonna read any more books. I'm just gonna play because I want to play and I want to be good at this because it's better than dancing for me. I can meet all these people, like from all different walks of life, and not only meet them but have respect from them. Because as a dancer, I didn't feel like I had respect from them. I feel like the dynamics of me being a dancer was affecting the respect factor. It was like, we know each other from different parts of life. I appreciate this encounter, but you don't respect me. You want me to bend over and shake it as fast as I can for a few dollars. And I'm not really down with that. Like, I just want to like conversate with you or like hear your perspective on things or just talk. Like, I don't want to like shake it until I pass out. So poker allowed that for me. And that's what made the money not be the main attraction. And that's when I started winning. It was weird. It's like the moment I stopped caring, that's when you win. I guess it's like that with most things. Like when you try to remember what you're trying to say, and then the more pressure you put on it, the further it gets away. As soon as you relax, you're like, that's what I was trying to say. So I feel like same with money and like trying to like make it all the time.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because it's like about, removing the pressure. Because I think it's almost like, martial arts and all sorts of things like that. It's about getting yourself to the point where you're not reactive when things happen. Like you get punched in the face and you don't just get like lose your shit. You remain calm. You just feel it and you react with like you respond to it. And so it's like even when everyone on the world is watching you do a thing, and the pot is huge and stuff, it's like, can you keep your cool? And that's really what the game is, like, who can keep their cool the best. And
Yeah.
and even to like say like kind of compare it, what you're saying there, it's reminding me as I started to learn about crypto, I started to learn about kind of like technical analysis, and like that's essentially the same thing as like stock trading and all that stuff, which is very similar because people get into it. It's like I could just make money for free. Like all I got to do is I just buy these things and then sell them later, and I don't do anything. It's just about when you buy and when you sell. But the thing is, you're analyzing the markets, and it's about can you keep your cool and keep to your plan. Because people will freak out like, oh no, it's diving. I got to sell everything before I lose all my money. But then a lot of times the good investors, they're like, no, this is time to buy, because I know it's going to go back up because I did my research. And it's about like trying to mitigate your emotions in the face of conflicting inputs or something like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I also think it's fascinating because, it seems to me that poker's also kind of a male-dominated like field or whatever, or like sport. And so it's like going from what, at least from what I know about like dancers, is like there is like, in order to be really good and make a lot of money, there is like you have to be sort of a powerful woman in your mind and your personality. But yeah, it's like you said, there's like a fucked up weird dynamic, but it's like taking that same idea, of believing in yourself and applying it to a field where, yeah, you are meeting the other people as equals. Like everybody sitting at the table is an equal, Would you say like, do you kind of like, you kind of took it there? Like what was your experience being like a woman in poker?
Yeah, it was that. But then I still wanted to use all my tricks and all the things that I learned about how guys are to women. So I would wear like La Perla, like lingerie to the table.
Yes.
And just do really like crazy stuff. Like, yeah, I'm all in. Like,
Right.
just raise all in because I knew that like I would watch other players do that were successful. They had more money than me, but I'm like, well, the only difference between how much money they have and how much money I have is the difference that I assign to that. Like there's no real difference. Like I can do what they do. Just all I have to do is do it. So I started doing those things, and it really was like beneficial. And And this is before other people started doing them because they were afraid that they didn't have enough money. So I was doing a lot of studying, and then I had friends who were like real wildly successful, and they would share with me little things that weren't in the books that I read, and I would get confused if they were helping me because they wanted to sleep with me or because they were just like, oh, we're really just friends. And I just decided that it was my own thing. It was like a war in my mind, and like just like I can turn off the fact how much money I have or don't have. I can turn off the fact that I'm a girl and they're a boy. Like I don't have to focus on it and I don't have to like constantly think about it. But it was everywhere around me. And then I started seeing more girls play. And then they even have like a women's event at the World Series. And I thought about playing it, but then I was like, I don't really want to play in a tournament that's like women's. Like it's kind of like focusing on the fact that we're all women. It's like
Right.
I don't really like that. It's just like having a black restroom. Like, oh, it's a black zone. Like, yeah, that's cool that you want to give me a restroom, but we're all fucking like, how can't we just use the restroom?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, especially for a sport like poker where there's no physicality. It's all just like mental work, and it's kind of just like putting this thing. Well, women are not as smart as men to even kind of separate it like that. It's
I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
I think generally they're smarter than we are.
Yeah,
but
by far.
Are you seeing more of that like co-ed stuff? Do you still play poker?
I do. I just played poker the other day.
Do you win?
I did win, but I just like, I've just started. It's so many more people playing now. Like sometimes now it's just like people. I'm in Vegas for a week. Might as well play poker, shoot the shit with my friends. So it's like, it's not as competitive, which means it's not as easy to like grow, because it's like playing against people who aren't even good. So it's kind of hard to grow. And for me, that was the whole point. Is just like getting better and like developing new skills, but it's kind of hard to develop new skills and get better when you don't have a certain level of competition.
Aye.
At least me personally, so I just kind of find it like, whatever, I can make a couple $100, but who cares, you know? Like, I'm not trying to be there. I'm not trying to be this person that's trying to make a couple $100. I'm trying to like see what strategies and like how I can move and stuff that I can apply to the world, to any situation. That's like just trying to learn and just grow mentally instead of just make a couple bucks.
So there's this whole thing. Have you used crypto or anything of that nature in poker and any of the gambling? What's your take on that and trading in crypto or gambling with crypto? What's the view on that?
My view on the crypto world is that it's not much different than poker, but it's also like very different than poker.
Aye.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. My view on the whole crypto thing is this: it has some similarities to poker, but I feel like it's more aligned with like patterns, like the whole cryptology thing. Wait, I don't even know how it's called, but when you can, cryptography. Like I've made 2 languages, so I know how it feels to like to have that, to like have a language and then like see it play out. And I feel like that's what the crypto world is a lot about. Like it's all these different coins and tokens, and then there's different ways you can have relationships with them. Like you can mine them, or you can like trade them, or you can invest in them. Then I even heard that you can create one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm still like curious on how you can do that, and just like the whole like world of it. I don't really like that it's not textile. It's not something I can touch, but it's still just like a big heady thing right now for me. It's like, whoa. So it's just like all this head stuff. And I think that's kind of cool. It's like a lot to figure out. I don't think anybody knows it all. And so it's like unlimited growth and knowledge.
Yeah, it's if you're interested, I mean, if you're interested in the crypto part, like, like the languages part of it, that would be really interesting to see what you would do. Like, cause I think if you learn some of the coding languages, I know for like Ethereum right now, there's just a coding language, and you just kind of learn it, and then you figure out ways to create your own currency using their programming language.
Right. Off
But
of their
there
chain.
are easier ones like I guess Polkadot is supposed to be really easy to create um, your own apps and your own coins and stuff. But I think what's interesting about it is it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to create a coin or whatever, but it's thinking about how do you hedge it? How do you make it secure? And designing a system where, because all of them have different intentions. That's what's so cool about it is that, it's like games that are built on other games and stuff. Like this coin is all just about, like measuring, like indexing, so that when you need to research, which kinds of transactions are happening, you can do it really quickly instead of having to scroll through the whole blockchain. Someone built a blockchain that just scrolls through blockchain and indexes things.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you build, so it's super useful, and all of these different coins, have varying uses and applications. So like even the different currencies, they call it tokenomics,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and I think it's really fascinating to like think about like what's a something that you're really interested in. Like you could possibly create like some sort of blockchain based poker app or something like that, and you play with digital tokens or various things. And then it's about thinking, how do you hedge it so that people can't hack it, How do you make it so that people can't steal? But I mean, it's super fascinating just the stuff that people are able to prove with math, and symbols, and just be like, so that there are ways that you can know things without having to know. Like I can know, for instance, on a certain blockchain that Chris has $100 without having to know anything else about who he is, where he is, or even how much he has total. It's just like, in order for us to do business, you need to have 100, whatever Ethereum or whatever coin in your wallet, and I can know that for sure due to math without having to know anything else about him. And that's what's really cool, is that those kinds of protocols can be used in the future to do various forms of transactions without anything. It's just math. It's mind blowing.
Right.
But I think it's interesting because, yeah, we talked about this earlier about like the balance, because crypto is abstract. It's like pure symbolism. It's pure abstraction. There's almost no physicality to it, which I think is super weird, because you had mentioned something about it being kind of like the opposite. You have the physical reality and the mind reality. I was wondering if maybe you could kind of explore that a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I feel like the different the fact that it's like mostly non-textile, like you can't touch it other than the device that you use to sign on to it.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's like, for me, is, and I think there's a lot of people that's like me, that's like some people will call it autistic, who like who learn by sensory and touch, and exploring things like that, like different textures and
Or
fabric.
I think that's kinetic, right? Kinetic learning.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
sounds extra smart to me.
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe it's kinetic, but I think that to be like that, and then to like be interested in something that doesn't involve any of that, for me, it's like, are you sure that you're into it, or is it just because you know somebody who made like $1 million? And then the other, like, I had an art supporter who I did some commission work for, and he was a hacker, and it was the first time I ever seen a black card. And he told me he lost $500,000 in stocks that year, and he was telling me about his life, and just hearing about him and knowing how he was, I assigned that personality to like all people who are hackers and who probably are into crypto and like trading stocks, and it doesn't feel like that I'm being focused on, like, I feel like I'm ignoring the fact that it's not all these things. Like, like I feel like a little scared to like go deeper. Like I already sold a bunch of my coins off. I mean, my not my coins, but my the things I was invested in. I don't even know what they are, if they're coins or tokens or whatever. But
Right.
those things, I sold some. And all right, I probably shouldn't do this. I haven't logged in a while, and it's because I feel like I was only doing it for money. But I do like the patterns and stuff. But I just feel a little conflicted because it's like so opposite of what I consider like natural and like health and happy. I'm like, I got my teas, I got my herbs, but it's like I can't touch and smell this stuff. I can't even see it. There's all this world that's just like so far away from me. And I don't know if I'm okay with going so deep into this world, because maybe I'm tricking myself and I'm doing it because of only the money part. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I feel even before like talking to you today, I was like, oh man, I recently hung out with my friend who's just like super, what some people would call conspiracy theorists. He's like, this whole COVID-19 stuff is, he was like, I told people this was going to happen 10 years ago, but I didn't know when. And he was like, it's finally happening. And like, we're all going to, the evil forces wants us to be like all robots and like not see each other or touch each other anymore. And they just want us to like exchange like money without even having money. I'm like, whoa, money was something we touched. And if this like takes over, then we're not gonna even touch it anymore. And I'm like, I don't know if I can live in a world where I can't touch people. And I'm like, how did I get that far? It's like, I can touch people still. And I'm like, well, if I support such a thing that's not touch, it's gonna want more control. And like, I don't know. I just feel conflicted. I don't know how to feel.
That's an awesome point. That's a very, very interesting point. I mean, if part of what we feel of control is being able to, to touch the thing and whatnot, and the currency mindset is going toward something that's non-physical and not touching it. How do we know that it's exactly going to stay the way that the blockchain says it is, or the way that it does it? That's a very interesting point. I had not really even thought about it from that angle. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would offer like an opposing viewpoint about like, so I mean, the thing about the current system of money as it stands, and it could extend to blockchain, but I mean, right now, money is pretty abstract. Most of the money, most of the dollars are just bits, Oh, she dropped out.
There we
Oh,
go.
we got it back. No, but like what I was saying, it's like most money right now, and our system currently is built on dividing us. And in fact, I think that a lot of the systems we have are designed to abstract us further and further from our connection, not only to each other, but to nature and to the world. And one of the promises that I see, or the promise that I see in blockchain overall, and it's by no means assured, I'm not a utopian, but I think that it has the possibility of actually bringing us together, bringing us closer, because right now, a lot of the organizations, like our whole world is run by systems who are controlled by like a handful of people. So if all of a sudden all your money's in a bank, like a couple people have the power to just say like, oh, bank's closed, and all your money's gone, or various things like that. Like, what we saw with Robinhood, and our whole lives, like we were sold this idea that we're in control and that we're free, but we actually aren't. It's like just these larger structures that can decide what happens, like a handful of people, a few hundred people in Washington can decide the fates of millions, and it's crazy. And we think that that is actual tangible, but the ideas of blockchain is that it takes the power from their hands and it distributes it so that if you want to get involved with a project, you can actually see, it's like transparent, so you can see what you're able to actually do with it, and it empowers us. Like for instance, there was I just heard this story about, so there was a social network on the blockchain called Steam, and something had happened where they compromised it. So basically, it was weird because there was like a decentralized part, which was the social network, but then there was like a certain number, like the power to mint coins was centralized, and it somehow all got passed to this dude's son, who decided he was just gonna like profit off of it. And so what happened was everybody who had been using Steam decided that they were going to move over to something. I think they call it Tron. I might be wrong about that.
I believe.
But essentially what they did is they're like, oh, fuck this. And they forked it. And because the code is open source, they were able to take the code and have it be exactly the same, but it's just different now. It's no longer underneath this guy's control. So this guy, it would basically be like, if we're all using Facebook, and then Mark Zuckerberg decides to do something, that all of us don't like, and we're like, he takes all the power and decides, oh, now I'm going to sell all your data to Russia and China, and all of us are like, we don't like that. We're all going to do the exact same thing, and it's basically a clone of Facebook, but it's one that doesn't sell all our information. And so it's like, cool, you can keep all of the information on Facebook, go ahead, have fun with it. We're going to do everything on this network. And that's what's really exciting, is that collectively, if we all decide we don't like what the CEO of a company does, we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, well, then fuck that whole company. We can be like, well, we like using these tools. Turns out the CEO is a douchebag, so we're going to keep all the tools and keep using that and just make it so that the CEO doesn't profit off of it, which I think, ultimately it has the power to bring us more in connection with each other and with the networks and the systems that control us. Even though it's abstract, it's the same kind of abstraction that I think already is filtering through,
Aye.
Yeah. But I mean, it is crazy, because I think that's what's really blowing my mind with this, is that it's revealing to me. I like that people are having the conversation now where they're being educated on how money currently actually works. Like, people have this saying, like, money doesn't grow on trees. It's like, no, it doesn't. It just magically appears because people in the Fed say so, and banks, like, they just magically make money happen. It's like, what? Like, all this time we've been sold this lie that money comes from hard work. Money comes, you got to get out there and bust ass and sweat and toil and bleed and give away all your time so that you can get a little bit of money, so that you can have a little bit of fun and then get back out there and keep working. And it's just serfdom or slavery. That's that's been handed down to us. It's the same thing as when the lords owned the land and the serfs would work the land. And it's like they bust ass farming so that the lord can eat really nice. It's like, and they get to keep a little bit of the food that they farm.
Right.
So it's like, it's so crazy that's the conversation we're having now. It's like, it's all been fake, the whole time.
The whole time.
Like, it was never real.
Literally a printer. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do agree with you, though. That is a fascinating thing about, like, and I think it was kind of like what we were talking about, is that, like, duality of, like, mind versus body, and and trying to see how they connect. Because I'm with you. I love doing lots of physical things, and I really want to know, there are some projects out there about how to connect, like, physical assets or physical things with crypto. Like, there are things like synthetics, they call them, where you can possibly make a synthetic version of like an asset, like, for instance, a stock. You can make a synthetic crypto version of GameStop stock or something like that and trade that. And then you get all the benefits of crypto without any of the negatives of the stock market, and all the centralized authorities there.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I want to do more research on it, but there's also, people have talked about using natural resource, like basing our money or a certain currency off of natural resources. This would be to control or regulate pollution, for instance. So it's like, okay, we can hypothetically say there's X amount of oil in the United States, you know.
Aye.
So then we divvy that up, and then it's like we use that as currency or something like that. That's, I don't know. I might not be able to fully explain that theory right now, but I think it is fascinating that ways that we could, you know. Well, yeah. I mean, even down this road, and because I've been reading this book called Sacred Economics,
Right.
and he talks about how the crazy thing about money is it's the most unnatural thing because it never devalues. Like everything decomposes, you know, everything, it's born, it grows, it gets strong, and then it slowly dies, and then it decomposes and goes back to the earth and gets recycled. But the thing about money is it doesn't do that. It, like, money is just like immune to the laws of nature. It doesn't age. It is indistinguishable. Like, you can't tell my dollar from Chris's dollar. Like, if someone you love gave you $500 and someone you hate gave you $500, you know, just put it in your bank account, there would be no way to spend the money only from the one you love. Like, how do you know which dollar is which?
Right.
You know, and so there are these things about money that make it immune to nature. And I think that that's the reason why we're slowly killing the earth and destroying our societies, all based on money. You know, we're all chasing money and hurting ourselves. And, you know, in a way, that's like the lesson that you were learning from poker. It's like, that's what I'm trying to learn, but with crypto. You know, I'm trying to lessen my attachment to money, and like, oh, I need money, I need to get it, I'm freaking out when
Keep it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. I feel like if we can all be there, and if we can all like collectively just be in that, like the powers of the crypto, like there's no centralized force, and we can just all be like, well, I'm just in it because I don't care about money, but I'm into like getting things from people and like trading it. I feel like if it can be there, like where we can just use it to have things that we want, like, oh, okay, I have 50 hats. I'll give you one if you give me tea. Like, or I need food, so I'll give you some of my shoes that I'm not using, or just things like for trade. I think if we can, if there could be some way that we can guarantee that this crypto world was just a better way to like trade, and like so that we can all have the things that we need and want, and just like share the world equally, and just like not have these power dynamics over each other, or not have this status thing over one another, or not have this division amongst each other, like, oh, my house is bigger and your house sucks. So you can just be jealous of me, or maybe I'll let you come over if you extort yourself to me. Like these dynamics, I'm not saying that crypto is the blame for it, but I just hope that it just like can make things just more like one love, one life, one human race. Like, because I feel like it has power to do that. Because if there's no like thing up here, and then everything is like dependent on that, if it's just all one equal field, then I feel like that's like one of the first ingredients to like have such a reality. But I guess I'm a little biased because I know people in the space, and they're like, they're like beasts. They're like, oh, I have this, I have that. I have 2 houses, and like one of them's a mansion, and I was like, I live alone.
Yeah.
Not saying you should go recruit people from the streets, but like, it's just so weird for just like, there's so many houses and there's so much food. So why is there homeless people, and why is there hungry people? It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah.
I can't understand it, and I just can't be behind something that I don't feel like is gonna. No, I'm not saying I can't be behind it, but I just hope that there's something that's just like gonna make this a little bit more even. It just doesn't make sense to not be. It's enough space, everything for everybody, and I don't understand. And I feel like money is not doing that well. It's like money is like complete. I'm not saying it's to blame, but it's like no, there's no like, yeah.
I mean, and that's really why we started this podcast, because like I agree with you, and I think what I want to see is because there is a stereotype, and it is rich white tech bros who want a Lamborghini, like, oh yeah, so I make trading Bitcoin to get my Lambo, and it's like it's super lame. But the thing is that I see the potential, and I don't want it to turn into what the internet turned into, like, because this is the way I think they're calling it Internet 3.0. And I feel like if we can educate the artists and the mystics and all the people about the possibilities of crypto and and blockchain and other types of things like that, that we can start learning we can empower ourselves to use it and to direct it where we want it, because it could turn into just another centralized thing, or just more materialism, more consumption and bullshit. But it could also turn into something like, if we learn the right ways to use it, to where we take the power back and we can share things. We keep people from being able to tell us what we can and can't do. We allow ourselves the freedom to decide that for ourselves, and to shape the networks that we use. Because it's like we all just got born into the system, and then this is the money that you're forced to use. Like, I got no say. I didn't get to decide. And there's no way for me to even change. I got to go work my way up to get a job at the Fed is the only way that I could get a say, in changing how money works. But like in this system, like all I need to do, and yeah, it's hard, but like I just need to learn how to do some programming and get a computer, and I can write my own code and create my own currency if I wanted, or I could get involved in a currency now and start getting involved, and I can put forward ideas. Like some of these currencies, they have what they call DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations. And so it's like, you just by participating, people can change how a certain blockchain works. If they're like, this feature is not working, or we need this to be faster. Here, I created a bit of code, and if we do this, it'll make it different in this way, which will make it better for everyone. And then everybody who owns, like a certain low barrier to entry, it's like certain amount of the cryptocurrency, can vote on it. And there are different ways that the voting can actually be more equitable, like it can work out better. There are different voting mechanisms, because right now in the United States we use the worst voting method there is: one person, one vote.
I can't vote. I don't know.
Yeah, he can't vote because he's been a felon from when you were in high school.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah,
it's been a minute.
You made a stupid mistake in high school. Like who didn't make? Yeah, no one ever made it. And so then from then on, you can't ever have a say in how the government works. And it's like with crypto, who cares? We don't even need to know who you are. It's just like, you get a say if you're using the system. Then you get a say in how it works, and that's what's really exciting about it. And so it's like, that's what I want to see, because I don't want to see more Lambos. Who cares? Like, if you're into Lambos, do that. But like, I want to see what you're saying. I want to see people empowered to be able to like do things like grow and make herbs that actually help people, instead of hustling hydrocodone or something, but not have to worry about being able to pay their rent. Not like, oh, I just want to grow herbs. And it's like, yeah, well, how much money can you make growing herbs? Like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and even further, it's like, we're not getting paid. Like, we're doing work. And that's the thing. Like, when you use Facebook or any social media, you're doing work. You're making it a cool place to be. You're engaging, you're helping their software. And the thing is, no one gets paid for that. And that's thievery, essentially, is what it is. It's like thievery. And the thing is that the blockchain systems leave that, because they're decentralized, they take the profit that they make and they just give it back to everybody who uses the system. which is how it really should be, you know? Like our taxes should be obvious how our taxes help us, and it isn't. It's totally not transparent, and there's so much bullshit that comes, and it's like, oh, I get to throw away money, you know, some of my income and not know where it goes, and just like, all right.
And it's about that time of year, by the way. Anybody who needs to remember that. Just,
oh, yeah.
I needed to remember
Taxes.
that. Just kind of throw that out there.
Bummer.
Sorry.
Yeah. So besides that, what other kind of like, you know, physical things do you do? Is dance still a part of your life? Do you still do a lot of that, or what else do you engage in?
I dance a lot, and I like to do. It's not called yoga. It's not de la fou, but it's like something around there. It's like karate mixed with de la fou mixed with yoga. I just like to move for like mental health. So
yeah.
However I want to move, and like whatever inspires me based on the rhythm that I'm hearing or the thoughts that I'm having. So that happens a lot. And just sitting down with people and like staring at them in their eye and just like talking about shit that's like really either really heavy or really light, depending on the mood. Just fucking connecting with people, but like true connection, authentic, non-judgmental, non-bullshit, like no expectations, no like this is where it needs to be. Like whatever happens, sometimes I'm not okay with it, and that's okay. But just practice, just showing up and just having people, encouraging people to show up and just hey, let's just be present with each other. Let's see where we can go with this. So that's what I like to do, and just not limit myself to beliefs or ideas or geography. So I like to float and just be wherever I think I should be.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, especially it's so important, you know, like I do think there's a little bit of truth to what your friend was saying about like just the disconnection. And yeah, I'm hoping that as things, you know, open up and all of this stuff and COVID winds down, that we, instead of going the direction we were, which was more and more separation, that we were like, no, I want to talk to people. And I almost feel like, you know, like what you were saying, you know, I feel like the direction before COVID was like, go big, you know, like I make music and put on events, and there was always pressure to make bigger and bigger events.
The biggest, coolest, most lasers. Yeah.
And, well, because like the thing is that you can't, the profit margins are so low with events that it's hard to make any money and make it sustainable. Like I'm busting my ass on all this event, and I'm only going to make $200, you know? Because it's like I should be charging $60, but I can't, you know. Who wants to charge $60 for a ticket, you know?
It's exposure.
Like, yeah. Well, yeah, you're getting paid exposure bucks. We just started exposure cryptocurrency. But I like the idea of prioritizing, you know, smaller connections, you know, where it's just a couple of people just doing this, or like 200 people max. You know, like I wish that was sustainable for like, you know, musicians or whatever. It's like I just do these small shows, and I just do them regularly all over the place, and because the feeling you get is so it's the connection is so much better. I hate going to like 2,000 20,000 people events where you're just one in a sea of people. You know, it can be cool, I guess, for its own thing, but I don't know. Yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying there.
I feel like it's like the small classroom thing. It's like Montessori school is like smaller opposed to like big festival. I'm actually trying to do something like that. I have some land, and I'm trying to start I think I told you about it, where it's just like a bunch of teas and herbs and kind of like a big tea party. But the max I think is like 50 people. I think that's like big enough, but like intimate enough for like everybody to like talk to everybody. Yeah. And it still be like a lot of people where you feel like, oh my God, this is a party. It's like 49 people here, and I don't even know them. So I guess I gotta go get to know them.
Oh my God.
That's like a goal. And like massive Daiwans that can serve 20 people.
Yes, we have some of those. We can. I'll give one to you for the event for sure.
You have big Gaiwan that could serve 20 people?
We got some pretty large Gaiwans here, yes, for sure.
Wow. That's cool. Where is here? Where is your tea company?
Well, import and tea. My tea company's based here in Austin, Texas, and most of the tea that we're getting comes from China and Taiwan, bits of all over the world. But China and Taiwan are our focus as far as leaf goes, most of the time. Yeah.
Ah.
And you get Gaiwans from China as well? Is that where you're
We
mostly
get Gaiwans from China. The super large Gaiwans we got are definitely from Guangzhou.
Guangzhou?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I want to see one of these super massive Gaiwans.
Well, how about this? How about I'll send you some tea, and I'll send you at least some pictures of the Gaiwan. And as soon as that event starts, I'll send you the Gaiwan.
Okay.
But you have to invite us.
Definitely. Right.
I want to know what a 20-person Gaiwan is.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful and mind-blowing. There's also there's a teapot we got. It's about like that. It's
Nice.
beautiful. It's beautiful.
Interesting. I am so happy that Gong Fu Cha culture is growing. Like I feel like I first heard about it from like one of our mutual friends of I don't know, must have been 2013, and I thought it was just so cool, and like I wish I had gotten more into it back then, but now I see so many people just it's just like you. I never would have expected that you would have known about the Gong Fu Cha, and just like all these different people know about it, and it's like it used to be just such a niche Chinese thing that only if you'd been to China you might have seen someone. But yeah,
And even if you go to China, last time I went to China, I was pouring tea in this manner, and they say, you're pouring tea like my grandfather pours tea. You know, you can just put water in the cup, right? I'm like, oh, did I do this wrong? I don't know if I did this wrong, but yeah, it's growing massively. I was very, very happy to see that Gaiwan top and you pouring the Gaiwan when we started the video. It's just like, oh, yes, oh good.
Yeah. I like tea. I just think that I'm learning too about more of just like the culture of it, but like and the caffeine or thing. Like I'm learning about specific parts of my body that it activates. So like I've been like writing them down and just like getting really detailed about like how much it takes for me to feel the feeling that I feel and where I'm feeling it, and just like I talk a lot to my leaves, and I feel like they talk to me, and then the ways that they talk to me, I've been writing that down. Like, so it's a bigger world than just like getting the buzz. It's like pretty interesting. I feel like a lot of really deep secrets of the universe and of our intelligence is buried in the plant life, and I'm getting really specific information on that and like specifics on that. I'm like, oh, like I've heard people that had like cured diseases that they've had, not just with herbs but like teas too. So it's like it's just like really great. It's so easy too. It's just you just grow it. Well, I don't think you can grow it out in America, but that's
a little bit.
relative.
Little tiny bit. There's these guys out of Kentucky that were doing some stuff. There's these guys out of Oregon. Funny enough, I think I'm gonna go visit them soon. Hopefully, if they'll allow me and COVID allows it and whatever all the stuff is. But there's a few people growing around. Technically, Hawaii is the United States. Yeah, right. I guess that's still the United States. So there's tea growing in Hawaii now. Is that mainland? No, not exactly. But some of these other places are having tea start to grow. So we'll see. It takes like maybe 7 to 9 years for maturity enough for like processing the tea leaves to not just taste like some bad leaf kind of thing. But it's started and it's growing, and thankfully and hopefully they won't get to the overgrowing techniques and stuff, and we'll have some pretty good American tea here pretty soon, I imagine.
I'm curious, like, so we have a caffeinated plant, and I think, as far as I know, it's the only one that grows in the United States area, called Yaupon.
Ilex paraguayensis is the yerba mate, right? And that's
Yeah.
like South America, and that's the only caffeine producing plant out of South America. There's Central America, and we've got something called Ilex guayusa. It's known as guayusa, and that's more of like the Mexico kind of thing. And then in North America, we have Yaupon holly, also known as Ilex vomitoria.
Yeah.
Now, disclaimer: Ilex vomitoria. It's not because of the leaf; it's because of the berries. If you eat the berries, it will have a natural ipecac effect.
Ah.
It will make you vomit. Thankfully, it will not have any of the other like dying portions of vomiting.
Yeah.
and everything else that comes with it. So it's pretty cool. The leaves are very awesome, and yeah, it's a caffeine producing plant in the Americas.
Well, it's like what makes me think about that. I mean, because obviously, you know, people have like been sleeping on it for so long, and just in the past few years, you know, people have been learning because we import all of our caffeine, and it's crazy that it's like we have this thing, and like here in Texas, it basically grows like a weed. Like people pay a lot of money to get Yaupon off of their property, you know, and I'm curious, you know, like if there are similar things because the way people drink mate down in South America is similar to how you can brew tea like Gong Fu Cha, where it's just you leave it sitting for like 8 to 20 seconds and then you pour it and it tastes good. You get the full flavor. You don't have to let it sit for 5 minutes like coffee or anything. And so it's like, could we develop different techniques using Yaupon leaves similar to what they do with like all of the varieties of tea? Because it's all just, you know,
Yes.
you take a leaf and you just process it different ways. You get a green tea and a black tea and a pu'er. Although oolong is a separate thing, right?
It's pu'er that might be kind of separate.
Oh,
it's
okay.
all you know, cultivation and breeding. And all that
It's
kind
more
of stuff.
complicated than what I'm saying.
It gets a bit complicated, but it's still T. camellia sinensis, you know, and Yaupon being different. What? So did you work with any Yaupon whenever you were doing your herb work?
No, I never heard of it until now.
It's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I actually have some friends called shout outs to Lost Pines Yaupon. They wild harvest their Yaupon from like Bastrop. They go to the Lost Pine forest and they get it and they sell it here. They have some in some of the Whole Foods and stuff. It's great. I would highly recommend it. You know, I mean, it jacks you up about as much as tea, I think. I think it has similar caffeine levels. But yeah, like if you're trying to get something that's stimulating, that's not coffee, I love that stuff. It's great.
And it's local.
Grows here.
That sounds cool.
Pick
I'll
it.
try Yaupon. I'll try it when I get home.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, cool. Oh, you know what? We didn't even talk about any of your art. Would you like to tell us sort of about your art practice?
Yeah, it's just for my art is mostly just so I can stay mentally stable.
Uh-huh.
So I can like take the things out of my mind and put them into a way that I feel like people would appreciate instead of like say, "Oh shit, you're crazy." It's like, "Oh, that's beautiful." Sometimes they'll say like, "That's beautiful." Oh God, all right. But it's not about the reaction I get. It's just about the practice of it and just like so my painting is just my way to just be okay with being in my mind. Just like, oh, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Well, what does that look like? And then that question is just like, oh, this is what I think it looks like. And or this is what I think I'm trying to say based on how I feel. So it's like taking the feelings and my thoughts and then putting them into picture form. And then like sharing them with people in a way that I can like a lot of times people see them and they say, "Oh, I thought like that," or just like I can connect with people and not be alone in these thoughts and feelings. And then it's also nice because there's never going to be an end. It's not like oh, I'm done now. It's been all this time. It's like the more I do it, the more I figure out ways to do it and like to change it and like grow in it. So at one point I was making my own canvases and frames because I refused to buy anything. And then I was using all this recyclable materials for paint, because I refused to buy paint if I couldn't find it for free on Craigslist or on the corner of somebody's house. In San Francisco, there's a lot of people just put things on the corner or outside the house, and sometimes that's paint. So instead of like depending on that, I started using other things. And so that's fun too, just like using other stuff and just seeing the possibilities of all of it. Like, well, art isn't just about having a canvas or making a canvas. It's just about taking a feeling and a thought and then putting it into like visual. So like taking something that's not touchable and making it touchable. And that's just
I feel like I keep seeing everything that you say come back to kind of like where we started with like poker, you know, because you like, it reminds me of what you were saying with like the hand, you know, it's like you can make anything with any hand, you know, it's like you could get the worst hand and, you know, get the best hand and still lose, or you could get the worst hand and still win. And it's kind of similar to like that same principle. Instead of going out and buying like a royal flush or something, you're like, oh, I'm just going to see what comes to me and see what I can make out of it, you know? I think you should, you got to write that book. I feel like that would be so cool. Just the lessons of life that you've learned from poker.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
Make it audible.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Maybe you should just like speak it instead of like, I mean, and then transcribe it or something. Just kind of like tell the story, like talk to a recorder, and then you can get a transcriber thing or whatever.
Yeah. It's a thing called Dragon Speaking that does that. You can talk it and then it writes it.
Dragon Speaking?
Yes, Dragon Speaking, and then there's another word involved with it. I don't remember exactly, but speaking clearly, dragon speaking something, right?
We'll look that up.
Do you ever paint poker things? I have to ask.
Yeah, I painted a poker thing. Just once.
Just
I painted
once?
a poker thing once, and I made a calendar once. And I promoted the heck out of the calendar back when I had a Twitter. And I got some support from like the guy who made the poker boom. His name is Chris Moneymaker. Then there's another guy who like won the biggest tournament, who he wasn't a poker player either. His name is John. I forget his name because I'm trying too hard. But anyhow, that guy, I tweeted them and they both retweeted me and was like, yeah, I'll get your calendar, because I put their hands in my calendar. So I put like poker and like famous poker hands is what I called it. And then some of them I made up like really bad beats, like where like you're 99% chance winning, and then on the river you like lose. So like I made a lot of those hands, and then vice versa, like you're 99% chance gonna lose, but then that 1% hand come on the river. So I did some stuff like that, and that was fun. And I was like, I should do this every year. This is great. I'm gonna do this for all the poker people. And then I was just like, I don't want to know if I want to do something all the time. Like I can't be putting myself in prison on what I'm gonna do next year.
Right.
Like, who does that? The recipe for like
funny.
depression.
I feel like I'm the same way. I'm constantly like pulled between like, I want to get a regular thing where I know what I'm doing, and then like, but I would hate that, you know, because like I feel like my life is constantly chaotic. But I don't know, it's like finding that perfect balance of stability and like looseness to where you can kind of just move around, you know.
Well, we know we gotta wake up. We should probably drink water. I hear from certain friends and family that I should eat food, and I think you should too as well. These are some pretty good consistencies. You know?
Okay, water, food, wake up. Okay, I got all of that. I do all of that every day, or just about every day.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I was talking about this with a few people too. I feel like a lot of that balance is like intuition. Like you just kind of know when, like a lot of our intuition has been given to like, a lot of our intuition has been taken away from us with our repetitionness. Mm-hmm. And like with food, I don't believe you should eat every day. I don't believe, definitely not 3 times a day. And it's like, it's okay to fast and like, but there's no generic. There's no like, hey, you should fast for 3 days every 2 weeks. Like that's not my body and your body. like we're all individuals. So I feel like just anything that's generic is just like intuition lessening and like making you like achieve to be like somebody else and like less like yourself. So the more in tune you are with yourself, and you only get there by just like being with yourself and like, and you can share with others, but I don't think you should compare to others. And we're all guilty of that. And there's no way to fix it, like no generic way to fix it. But I think just being aware of it all and just trying to be intuitive instead of, there's no like, oh, I should do this or I shouldn't do this or how much should I do this? Like a schedule versus like chaos. It's like, I feel like the only good way to figure it out is just being intuitive and just going with your intuition. But then there's fantasy that looks just like intuition, but it's just a very slight difference. It's just like, oh man, it's just it's so much to figure out, but sometimes it's not worth figuring it out. That's part of the fun.
Right?
That is part of the fun.
Right.
Oh man. Well, I think that's a good place to leave this off. This is a great conversation. Thanks for talking to us. That's such a big insight. I feel like that was huge for me just listening to that, about the intuition, cuz I think I totally beat myself up going like I'm not like all the people on the internet who wake up and do accomplish a million things all day and all that shit. I seem to be on a different schedule, and I guess it feels nice to hear what you're saying and to be like, yeah, maybe there's a reason, maybe there's a reason for that, there's just intuition or following that, or don't get too caught up in that because you're giving away yourself. It's like what you were saying, like even though that's cool that maybe you would make a calendar every year, it's like, but that's who thinks that's cool? Maybe that's just programming from society that's like, oh, you can make a business and be a fully functioning, member of society at large. And you're like, fuck that. I just want to be me,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to make a
Yeah, I didn't wasn't born for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's super crazy. Well, yeah, let's absolutely stay in touch. Yeah, we'll be staying in contact. I think we got all the information, but yeah, keep us up to date if you're ever doing anything. We'd love to have you back on sometime and talk about other stuff. I'm definitely be curious to hear about, the anarchist upbringing you had. That's definitely fascinating. I think we'll have to revisit that sometime.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Of course. I'll get your info and we'll send you some tea and I'll get you some of the pictures of those amazing gaiwans.
Okay.
Well, great. Thanks for being on here.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.